down
All right, so let's
the
break it
different
down.
types of
There are
insurance
pretty much
options.
3 different types of insurances that you may encounter. Government insurances, which are your Medicaid, Medicare, TRICARE, your commercial payers, which is typically like Blue Cross, United Healthcare, Cigna, etc., and your liability insurance, like workers' comp or motor vehicle or homeowners. All right, so let's start off by talking about commercial insurances. So those are kind of like the insurances that anybody that's not on government insurance will come in with most times. You have your group plans and your individual plans. Your group plans are thought of as the ones that's given by employers. So like a group of people is just all in under this one umbrella insurance company. You have like say Tyson's Foods. They all their employees are under a group plan, whether it be Blue Cross, Cigna, etc. And they usually have a contract that their employers negotiate on with what's covered, what's not covered, so that they can provide the best rates for that group. Still under commercial, then you have your individual plans, most notably known as Affordable Care Act plans, Marketplace plans, or Obamacare. So those are just like those are just like individual plans that's purchased by an individual for their family or themselves. So they go on the marketplace and they, pick a plan, Blue Cross, Cigna, United Healthcare, and they pay their premiums outright, as opposed to the group plans where they typically pay their premiums through their paycheck or, some other source like deducted automatically for them. The individual plans, they have to actually make their monthly payments to the plan themselves every single month. Okay, and then under these most commercial plans, then you have the type of insurance policy that the patient has. So some are like HMOs, PPOs, those are the most familiar. And you have some other kinds like a EPO or like a POS. So HMOs are like old. I think of them to me as like old school. I remember being younger and being under an HMO plan. That's usually the most affordable type of plan because you have a group of providers that kind of refer. They're in the same network and they kind of refer their patients back and forth to each other. You usually have to see your primary physician first. That primary physician will refer you to the specialist or the other provider that you need to see. So they kind of like give you permission, so to speak, to see another provider. The PPO is the most flexible of the plans, is because they, as long as the provider accepts your insurance, you can be free to see any other doctor or specialist or provider that's within that network that gets in-network benefits. And there's also out-of-network benefits, but that's usually the more flexible. You don't have to ask permission from your provider to write your referral to see another doctor. Then you have like a EOP, which is like an exclusive provider organization. They usually, you usually have to refer everything to that exclusive provider. In special circumstances, can you see other providers? So it's a little bit different than an HMO because you have to go to like that one doctor, and that one doctor you usually have to choose a provider and see that doctor for everything. But you sometimes can go see another provider without the specialist referral, but that's in rare circumstances. And then there's a lot of other like organizations up under the insurance umbrella, but those are kind of the most common. Then, of course, you have your your government payers, which is Medicare, Medicaid, and TRICARE. TRICARE is usually for military patients and their spouses and family. You have Medicare, which is for those that are 65 or older or that have end-stage renal disease or have disabilities. And then you have Medicaid, which is usually for children or lower income families, mostly pregnant women, and they're state funded. Medicaid is federally funded. Medicare is federally funded. Medicaid is federally funded as well, but it's controlled by the state. So It just differs in every state, and TRICARE is pretty much military funded. And then last but not least, you have your liability insurances, which is like work comp, homeowners insurance, things like that. Typically, those insurances are primary if you had an accident or an injury or illness that occurred that will be covered by that plan. So, motor vehicle accident, if you had a motor vehicle accident, you're to submit the claims to the motor vehicle insurance first, and then if there's still any cost left, then you submit it to whatever type of insurance that you personally have, whether it's a government insurance or a commercial insurance. And the same goes for homeowners insurance and workman's comp. So those are usually primary when it applies to that situation. um, the only limits they have is the limits that's based on that plan. So you really do have to talk to the adjuster in order to understand what is really covered with the liability insurances. But those are pretty much the three types of insurances you would encounter as a biller: commercial, um, government, and liability. Okay, going back to government insurances. So you remember Medicaid, Medicare, and TRICARE. So it's so much more under that umbrella that we have to discuss, that you need to know as a biller, that I'm not going to be able to get through in this video. But what you need to know with Medicare, there are four parts that a patient could get into. Well, really three parts or one part. But anyway, there are four parts to Medicare. So you have A, B, C, and D. And each of those parts have a special meaning. So most people get enrolled in Medicare Part A because that's for, serious things like hospital care or skilled nursing care. So like when a person turns 65, they typically have Medicare Part A. Medicare Part B covers your medically necessary stuff like your physicians, your ambulance services, and the patient would have to make sure that they enroll in Part B. And then you have your other parts, your Part C and your Part D, which are like supplementary. You can think of Part C as like a supplementary insurance. It's something that you don't really need, but it's good to have because it'll cover any costs that may not be covered by the other parts. Is usually considered like your Medicaid, your Medicare Advantage plans, and you can get one that encompasses all of the other parts of Medicare, and you could just have Medicare Part C. And then you have your Medicare Part D, which is your prescription plan. And so you can like kind of have Medicare Part A and Medicare Part D, whereas you cover hospital stuff and prescription stuff. You can have Medicare Part B and Part D, which covers your doctor's visits and your prescription stuff. Then you can have your Advantage plans, which is just a supplementary plan that kind of like is tailored to your needs. But yeah, Medicare is kind of a beast in and of itself. They work really well with CRC coders, if you're looking at the coding aspect of it, because they are big with the ACOs, given the cost sharing aspect of the insurance world. And that's a whole nother subject, but those that know what I'm talking about. And yeah, so that's just kind of the breakdown of insurances. So important for you to know is what type of insurance your patient has, and then you will have to know what insurance is considered primary and what insurance is considered secondary if they have more than one insurance payer that is covering their services, and what their plan entails. So anytime that you do have a question or you are wondering like, is this stuff covered, it's always best to get on the phone with the insurance carrier and just let them know, the customer service agent know, what type of services the patient is seeking from your provider to see if it's covered. Always make that phone call and you can't go wrong with that. But I hope this quick breakdown of insurances was a little bit helpful, made it a little bit clearer. Let me know what questions you have.